And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and as always, my co-host, Chris, is here. It is Monday, September 25th, and we're here to give you our waiver wires for Week 4. It's never too early to get your waiver wires put in because you never know what your league mates are going to be putting in if you have fab budgets. And for those, if you are high up on the waivers, you want to lock it in case you do forget on Tuesday night. Before we jump into the content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification button so you get the little bell telling you when all our new videos drop. And as always, look out for our Thursday night football primer as well as our Saturday morning weekend outlook in terms of matchups, starts, sits, and sleepers. You got anything to add about Sunday's matchups this past week that you like?
No, I love the games. I loved a lot of what we saw from some of the positional players, some of the breakout guys. It was nice to see Justin Jefferson get his first touchdown. Love to see it.
It was about time.
Yeah, about time. And just absolutely love Sean Payton just getting smacked around.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Sean Payton, let's jump into our waivers. These are two players that if they are not owned, go get them and pay for them. That is, speaking of Sean Payton SmackDown, Devon Achane, as apparently he was requesting to be said, not a chain.
Devon Achane.
Achane, I guess. So we're going to roll with Achane until we hear otherwise. He's 47% owned in sleeper leagues, so it's still under 50%. If he's available, pay for him because they are going to get him more involved in this game. Even if Raheem Mostert's playing well, as you saw, he will still get his opportunities. As well as Tank Dell, the second guy in. If he's not already owned in your league, go get him. There's a number one for your league. He's 48% owned, and again, back-to-back weeks, leading that team in targets. He's going to continue to do so as long as that team is passing the ball.
Let me just say this. This is my Tank Dell appreciation, okay? This is a guy, since he was drafted, in our very first episode, when the rookies were in the new places and we're giving their rookie outlook, this is a guy I said everyone should be keeping their eye on. And he was a late-round sleeper. I mean, the preseason ADP had him not being drafted. I drafted him in the 14th round, and week 3, here we are, and he's paying dividends already. He's leading the team in targets 2 weeks in a row. He's just thrown up 2 weeks in a row with touchdowns, and now he just posted his first 140-plus yard game. And he should have had 2 touchdowns. He got tackled at the 1-yard line, and Dameon Pierce pushed in on the next couple plays. Tank Dell is someone you should be spending some money on. If you spent money on Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp coming back, Tank Dell is the guy there. There's no Cooper Kupp coming back into this offense. We've seen the evolution of C.J. Stroud through the first 3 games and him getting better and better. And as this offense continues to get better, Tank Dell is going to have a bigger role in it. So go and spend your money and get him.
Yeah, and again, we won't go into too much detail on him because we've already brought him up as a waiver pick in our past episodes. So again, we're talking about some people who are under 40% owned, looking for people that in most leagues are still available. But again, if those two guys are available in your league, go get them. But let's talk about players under 40% owned that you should be looking to pick up this week. Now, that being said, there was a massive injury at wide receiver. Another player down this week. Every week we've lost somebody, it seems like. And that was Mike Williams of the LA Chargers. I almost said San Diego Chargers. LA Chargers. And that's it's a big hit to, one, Mike Williams owners, but 2, to that team. He's been a staple and the backbone for that receiving core right next to Keenan Allen. But that being said, Josh Palmer kind of tends to be the guy that's going to step right in and be that wide receiver 2. He's got the rapport already. He was supposed to step up last year, and it just didn't happen. I think it was a lot of an undertaking with that offense also not being as pass heavy and downfield passing as it is this year. Chris put out a short today, and he did also mention another player, which we'll tell you next. But right now, Josh Palmer's 5% owned, as he should have been because he was kind of an afterthought for people. It wasn't a stash play either. So that being said, he's going to be the immediate pickup here.
Yeah, I'll say this on Josh Palmer, at least with last year, right? We had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both hurt. So he went from being the number 3 to being the number 1. And that's why I think we didn't see a lot of production out of him. Now, if you're a Keenan Allen owner, you got to love. I mean, like, no one loves an injury, right? But you got to love the usage that he got after Mike Williams got hurt. But Palmer is going to be a guy, at least if you need a replacement for Mike Williams in the next week or two, right? If you need to get someone through the next couple of weeks while you get some people back from injury, or you're waiting to see on a couple of guys, or Mike Williams was your number 2 and you didn't really have a lot of depth at that position, go and get Josh Palmer. I don't think he's going to be a high waiver priority. I think the next guy that we're going to talk about is going to be someone who, if he's available in your league, people are going to go and spend their fab on. And that being Quentin Johnston. And he's a guy that, again, I had drafted and I kind of knew I was going to wait and see with him. And he's going to be a guy that I don't think is going to make an immediate impact now that Mike Williams is hurt. But I think as he progresses and as he develops as a wide receiver, he's going to be picked up. He's going to be used a heck of a lot more in that offense. He is Mike Williams. Like, if you look at just the body type and you look at the type of player he is Mike Williams. So I think he just needs to learn this offense a little bit better. I think he needs to get some of those rookie bumps out of the way. And we're going to see Quentin Johnston be utilized a lot more in this offense. Now, this is a pass-heavy offense. Once Eckler comes back, Eckler is going to take a lot of the shorter carries away, but that's not what Mike Williams was being used for. Mike Williams was a down-the-field threat. So if anything, when Austin Eckler comes back, it's going to take some of the volume away from Keenan Allen. But the down the field stuff is still going to be there, and we know from Herbert he likes to push the ball downfield. So Quentin Johnston is a guy that I would want to add if I have depth at the position already, and I can get through the next couple of weeks. Or if you're a team that's 3-0 or 2-1, and you have some really good matchups coming up, go and stash Quentin Johnston. This is probably going to be the only opportunity you have within the next week or two to go and get him. I'm guarantee you, like, I think he's 51% owned in sleeper leagues.
He's 51% owned, which is still low for him right there.
Well, I think this week we're going to see him jump up into the 75-80% range now, especially with the Mike Williams injury. I think this is what people were waiting on, was either a Keenan Allen or a Mike Williams injury, and then they're going to go jump and pounce on Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, though, if you look at the way they've used Quentin Johnston, it hasn't been in the Mike Williams role whatsoever, because he's been on the same field at the same time as Mike Williams.
Right.
But even when he came off for a little bit of that 1 week where Mike Williams was being checked out before this obvious previous injury, he still wasn't being used. Palmer was the guy as a downfield threat, and he's going to be the immediate downfield threat till they decide if Quentin Johnston's going to take over the mantle of Mike Williams, or if they're going to ride him as their Josh Palmer role, which still was downfield. Sure. It was just slightly different. So I like Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnston, if you don't need Josh Palmer on your team right away, Quentin Johnston's a great stash play, and because I think he's going to have a role in this high-power offense later on. And Chris was right. When Eckler comes back, Josh Kelly's had 2 targets in the 2 games where he's been the lead back. Eckler gets way more targets than that from this offense, and I think he's going to take away a little bit from Keenan Allen, like Chris said. I think he's also going to take away from some of the other guys because of the trust he has in Eckler, and that's Herbert. But we'll see. Let's move on to our third one. We're going to talk about 2 quarterbacks here. First one is C.J. Stroud. If you have been in a hole or in a cave for the past 3 weeks of football, then you don't understand how well C.J. Stroud is playing football as a rookie quarterback. The guy has yet to throw an interception. He's been on fire. He's on a team that has to constantly throw the ball too, which is the type of quarterback you need and
he's
you
thrown
want.
For over 900 yards in 3 games.
In 3 games, over 900 yards. He is got the most consecutive passes right now without an interception in the league. So if you just look at everything across the board, he's a guy that is a perfect streamer option. He's a guy that if you had, as we talked about last week, if you had Justin Fields, and we're still talking about this week, if you had Justin Fields and you need to pick somebody up, CJ Stroud is a high floor player. You're going to get good yardage out of him, and you got to hope that they don't get down to the 1 yard line and pound the ball in. But other than that, he's got receivers left and right that are going to be able to make plays for him. All 3 of these receivers have been fantastic and good hands and big playmakers. So CJ Stroud is only 31% owned right now. Go and get him. Another one is Jameis Winston.
Now, I would pump the brakes on this one. No, definitely don't go and spend money, because it does look like Derek Carr avoided serious injury. It says it's an AC joint sprain. and he might even be ready by this weekend. We'll check out this week. If Jameis Winston comes in, it's going to be probably a 1 week, 2 week replacement.
Correct.
Jameis Winston is going to be a streamer option. If you were like John said, if you're a Justin Fields owner, if you lost Aaron Rodgers and haven't gotten someone to replace him because there weren't a lot of quarterbacks out there, Jameis Winston is a good option. Again, there's weapons all around. I mean, you have a ton of weapons around there. They're getting Kamara back.
Well, we know how Jameis Winston plays football too. It's gonna be good for Olave. It's gonna be good for Michael Thomas. It's gonna be good for Rashid Shaheed. It's actually not gonna be great for Alvin Kamara, as the games he played with Winston wasn't big in getting passes out the backfield, but we have yet to see what Kamara is going to do for that offense. But to me, if you look at it, there's no bye weeks this coming week. Bye weeks don't start till week 5. But you're talking about Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, Geno Smith, and I mean, if you're starting Baker Mayfield, it better be because you heard our advice and streamed him this week. But to me, if you have a Herbert player or if you're a Deshaun Watson, that's your main guy, or Geno Smith is your main guy, and you're looking for a 1 week play, and if Carr's not coming back, here's a cheap option to pick up last minute and throw out there, because you know the guy could throw for 500 yards. He's done it in his career. He had 5 touchdowns in 1/2 at one point as a Saints starter before he had his knee injury. So this is not one that we're saying jump out and get on top of it, but it's one to keep an eye on, like Chris said, because if Derek Carr is out for a string of weeks, Jameis Winston has the ability to put up yardage for you in a high volume passing offense.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta love the weapons around him. So if Derek Carr misses time, the way Jameis Winston likes to play, it's one of these weeks where you're like, all right, if he's gonna go, like, go ahead and start him. He's gonna give you, like, you gotta accept the bad with the good, right?
Yeah.
So he might throw 2 interceptions, but he might throw for
5 touchdowns,
5 touchdowns, and 350 yards.
But
it's
I mean,
Jameis. You're going to get some crab legs with it too. So
yeah, I mean, that's how we dealt with. How many people here? I mean, if you're listening to this, grabbed Fitzmagic at some point over the past 5 years as a streamer option because you had an injury or a bye week, and the guy won you a week. Like, this is the type of play that's that. So
the cat happened yet.
Let's move on to a couple of other positional players here, 2 wide receivers and a running back. Marvin Mims is back on our list again this week. Marvin Mims is 27% owned, so not many people listen to us too much, and he had another great week getting in the end zone. He's another one. Grab him, put him on your bench, because as this team starts to break down, Jerry Jeudy is not looking that good. Marvin Mims is looking a lot more electric and effective with Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's going to start to trust him a little bit more, get more targets, make more big plays. I mean, Courtland Sutton's the number one there. It's been obvious this past week, and it's obvious was last week. I think that's going to be said, but a wide receiver 2 on an offense that is playing from behind every single week, who hasn't been effective rushing the ball for big chunk yardage plays, is going to have to pass the ball for big chunk yardage plays, and, well, Marvin Mims is right there sitting for you, only 27% owned.
Yeah, no, I liked Mims last week. I like him again this week, even though, like, the touchdown was a kick return for a touchdown. It wasn't, a big passing play. He's more and more involved into this offense, and I do think that this is what we said in the preseason too, is that eventually he's going to probably take over a number 2 role there. Courtland Sutton is the number 1 there, not Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is continuing to work his way down the depth chart. All right. And as Marvin Mims continues to develop as a receiver, he's going to be more and more involved, whether that being in the return game, whether that being in the deep ball game. He's a good player. He's a physical receiver. He's got speed to him. There's nothing if he's on a different team that wasn't this crowded at the wide receiver room, he would already be a starter and already be this, like, much more relevant. But he's in Denver, where there is Jerry Jeudy and there is Courtland Sutton, and there are guys there, right? So he's working his way. We're in week 3, and look how much production he's had already. It's kind of like he's less involved right now than Addison, but he's in a much more crowded wide receiver room than Addison was. Addison was going to be the number 2. There's only KJ Osborne there,
and KJ Osborne's working himself down that depth chart too. Drop after drop after drop.
Yeah, just keep dropping balls, man.
Well, the one thing I will say about this next guy too is nobody's really thinking about stashing this guy unless you were a Tony Pollard owner. But Rico Dowdle to me is somebody, and Chris and I have talked about him, that you got to get him on your lineup because he's going to be used more and more. We said it before in the preseason. We didn't buy into the Tony Pollard hype. He's not a bell cow back. And in Dallas, it's proving it. Like, yes, he can catch balls. Yes, he could run the ball. But in terms of usage percentage, he's not going to be what Zeke was at his youthfulness. And so to me, you need to have somebody out there. And he's a perfect change of pace. He's a big guy. He's a bruiser. And he had a fantastic game last week for the Cowboys in a terrible showing, by the way, against Arizona. But he is somebody to stash on your benches because, one, if there's an injury, this guy is going to be the number one there and split with Deuce Vaughn. But two, at the least, he's going to get more and more opportunities in tough situations, and he's good enough to break them off for more than just a 2-3 yard plunge. So I like to have him because, as you've seen, this running back rooms left and right, people are going down like flies with ankle injuries, knee injuries, and why not be prepared? If you got a bench spot to shove in there, get yourself Rico Dowdle.
I had Rico Dowdle in anytime touchdown parlay. I'm gonna say it. I hit it. I missed everything.
I don't know if you have enough hands to pat on your own back today with everything. Who you drafted, your parlays. That's okay. I'll help you. Our last big waiver pickup before we get into our two streamable players.
Someone's just salty. All right, let me just say this. Someone's just salty. He's in early season.
I'm in an injury riddled team that is just
he's having that kind of year.
We all have them. I'm going to come back. I'm the comeback kid. So DJ Chark is 15% owned. Last week, he didn't have an opportunity to really get into this lineup. He was coming off his hamstring. I said it before and Chris and I both thought that DJ Chark was going to be the main receiver there. He's still young enough. He's a better route runner. He's got speed. He proved it in Detroit. Well, this week he showed it again. And yeah, it was with Andy Dalton and not with Bryce Young. But still, he was the main guy, and then Thielen too as well. And to me, you're only going to see a separation of talent between DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's going to be a relief valve of sorts, and that's what he was. He got that touchdown at the end of the game. He got some big plays at the end of the game because he's a relief valve. But when you want big plays too, DJ Chark is the guy.
I'll kind of disagree with you there. I don't think Thielen is a relief valve at all. I think Thielen has a ton. I mean, he had 14 targets, 11 receptions. That's not a relief valve. And a lot of them were down the field. What I will say I like Chark. I like Chark when he was in Jacksonville. I like Chark when he was in Detroit. I like Chark now that he's in Carolina. What I will say was watching Andy Dalton throw the ball yesterday, if Bryce Young develops just a little bit, this is going to be like these guys are going to be relevant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Chark is a guy that I personally would go and add on a team. He's going to be probably a deeper stash guy, and if I had room on my bench, if I'm having underperformances on my bench from the receiver position, I would go and stash Chark. Like I probably would have Chark. It's close with like Tyler Boyd and Chark, with like who I would rather stash on my bench in case of an injury. But like if Bryce Young develops just a little bit, Chark is going to be a major fantasy producer.
Well, I mean, here let me just throw this out.
Thielen, I mean, like look at what Thielen. Like I said this. He's a veteran receiver. He's a savvy route runner.
He's solid.
He's just absolutely solid. And if this might be a good thing for Bryce Young to sit out 2 games, watch Andy Dalton run this offense and see what. And Bryce Young has all the talent. Mm-hmm. And Bryce Young's a smart kid. And so I do think this might do some real good for him to sit and watch Dalton actually play in game and be like, oh, that's what I can do. Oh, that's what I can do. Oh, but I can move out of the pocket. Oh, this is when I should step up and throw the ball. This is my second option that I know is going to be open. So I think that's going to be really good. Chark is a guy that is on our waivers because he's low owned and he has the potential to blow up.
Well, he had a 94% snap share last week. He had 11 targets. He only caught 4 of them. And I didn't get a chance to watch this game in detail. So, but 4 catches for 4 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. He's putting up Jalen Waddle numbers, although Waddle has a better catch to
minus a touchdown.
Yeah, but I'm saying 4 for 86, 21 yards per catch, and a touchdown. Like, he has that ability for you that I think he's still worth owning.
That's his career. That's
correct.
What he's been in his career.
And he was still that in week one catch, 15 yards. Yeah. You know, it's like, so like that's the difference between him and Thielen, I think. And that's, I only use the term relief valve for Thielen because I think he's the perfect guy that you know he's going to be open. He may not give you the big play, but he'll give you a 12-yard and out. He'll give you an over-the-middle catch down to the ground. But in terms of like big play, it's Chark that you're probably going to get the big play or Mingo from. So again, he, like Chris said, we like him because he's low owned. And if you're in a league with some
13 yards per catch yesterday,
it wasn't 21.
13 yards per catch, 11 receptions.
Wasn't 21. But let's move on to talk about two streamable players this week. One is a caveat. We'll include the third one then. I wasn't going to because I didn't love it. But anyway, streamable players. Melvin Gordon at 2% owned. You got to watch the injury list here because right now in concussion protocol, you got Gus Edwards. Melvin Gordon was the first man in, had 10 carries. Don't forget Drake was there, but Drake didn't look as good. Melvin Gordon had 10, I think, for 30-something yards. He's probably going to get the first step up. It's between those tackles runs. The lead runner on this team is Lamar Jackson, and we've been saying that since the injury for J.K. Dobbins anyway. Right. So he is, if you need a streamable option, you got there. We were just talking about this guy, quarterback streamable option, Andy Dalton. He's going to be definitely available this week, probably not next week. Bryce Young could come back. So this is more or less for somebody who's got injuries, bad matchups, anything of that sort. Or again, if you're a Justin Fields owner, go grab Andy Dalton. He's going to give you at least 20 points out there. And it may not look pretty all the time, but the guy gets it done. And then the last one that Chris was alluding to as our third one is Latavius Murray. He found the end zone again for the second week in a row. He has been the guy sniping away touchdowns from James Cook, as we talked about in preseason. It's not Damian Harris. So to me, he is another streamable option as a flex play at best, but he is a flex play that could find the end zone for you and hit double digits.
They're playing Miami, so you expect it to be kind of a shootout, right? High points, and so if they get near the goal line, it looks like he's getting the touches on the goal line. You know, in the last two games, he's scored touchdowns. Like he's not going to get volume, but he's a guy like, you know, again, this is kind of what we talked about with in the preseason when we thought Damian Harris would be, but the same kind of role is where like Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray was in Baltimore. Just the guys that are going to get you maybe 20, 30 yards and a touchdown. Like that's good enough to stream, guys, especially with all the injuries that are happening at running back. Like you guys that are starting Breece Hall out there in bad matchups, you guys that are starting like just bad plays.
Samaje Perine in flex play.
Like, you know? Like get a guy that's on a good offense that is getting goal line work. There's nothing wrong with Tank Bigsby's a great option about this year too. Like this is what we said this offense is going to be. We thought Jacksonville was going to be a lot better offensively, and then he'd get more opportunities. But Tank Bigsby now has 2 touchdowns on the season, both on the goal line, and both sniped from Travis Etienne. And
this is the same thing goes here in Buffalo.
That's what you're looking for a guy like that. Those guys have value because they get in the end zone, like especially in standard leagues. I get in PPR, like, yeah, you don't want to really play those guys. Other guys have more value in PPR. That's fine. But a touchdown is 6 points. All right. So if you're having to choose between Samaje Perine and Latavius Murray, like I'm going to go Latavius Murray.
Yeah, because Perine's going to need 60 yards to get close to the touchdown opportunity that Latavius Murray has. Right.
And even after last week's touchdown, he still is not rostered. I mean, he is 8% rostered in leagues.
Yeah.
8% rostered. So as a streamer option against Miami in a game we expect to shoot out, like there's going to be a lot of deep balls in this game. There's going to be a lot of plays. There's going to be probably a lot of red zone opportunities and goal line opportunities for both these teams. You got to like him. And this, you know, A-Chain is another one A-Chan is another one that we talked about as a guy that's higher owned, but if he's available, go and take. It's the same reason. Like I don't think A-Chan is going to have the same game that I don't think he's going to have another game like he just did. But just because Raheem Mostert, people are forgetting that Raheem Mostert had 150 total yards and 4 touchdowns in that game.
Himself,
and
I know.
A-Chan had a 68-yard run after all the starters were already pulled.
Yeah.
So I like
Yeah, I like the Achane. I mean, our list here. I obviously there's a couple people I like a little bit better than other ones, and that's why we talked about some of these guys being streamable, some of these guys being if you need a backup or you have an injury, versus Achane and Tank Dell. Those guys you could actually put into your flex, if not a wide receiver 2 for Dell, because of the output that you can expect from them on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out. I had a comment this morning on Instagram, and I wanted to just give a shout out and bring this topic up is because people are talking about like dropping players for Achane, right? And who do you drop, right? And so the question was brought up: do I drop Breece Hall for Achane? And I said no. I'm like, you want to hold on to Breece? Like, who else would you drop? Like, if Breece Hall is the guy that you're going to drop, like, there's got to be someone else. So his other option was Jerry Jeudy. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Because my thoughts are I'd rather drop Jerry Jeudy than Breece Hall. Now, I think the Jets are going to get it together, and I think that Breece is going to get the opportunity, and all Breece needs is one play. Whereas what we talked about, Marvin Mims becoming more and more part of this offense, Jerry Jeudy is being less and less involved. So
yeah, I like Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall as the player to hold on to because if you don't remember, it's like, oh, you have no Aaron Rodgers. Now you don't love Breece Hall. No, Breece Hall was doing what he did last year without Aaron Rodgers. He was doing it with Zach Wilson. So to me, in my opinion, you hold on to Breece Hall. The wheels are gonna come back on again there for the Jets. They have to.
The offensive line is not right now.
No, but so to me, you keep Breece Hall. I don't like Jerry Jeudy because if you don't feel comfortable starting Jerry Jeudy in your offense, why even have him on your team? When you could flex someone like Achane that you have a chance to blow up like he did and get opportunities. He still can catch balls out the backfield. In fact, I think they'll start using him more often than not that way too, and to give a change of pace for Raheem Mostert. And it's on a high power scoring offense. That happened to shut down Jerry Jeudy's team. So that's just my opinion on it.
Exactly. So, that's my thought.
Running backs are too hard to replace in this league, and Dalvin's not getting it done, so they obviously want to bring Breece in, and eventually they're going to take the reins off of him. So why give up a running back when if he does blow up and you need a receiver later on because you drop Jeudy, you can actually parlay Breece Hall, if you're not going to start him, into something else too. Like, you don't get that option when you get rid of him. So anyway, that's the end of our waiver episode here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, leave a comment and like and subscribe. Hit that notification button. If you agree or disagree with what we have, please drop the comment down. Chris and I are getting back to you guys as quick as can. As same thing goes for starts and sits for Thursday night when that's coming up. I'm going to be out of commission and traveling this week, but Chris will spearhead all your questions and comments in terms of starts and sits for these week's matchups. He'd be happy to give you the advice that's given him a 3-0 start to our league as well. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.